Developed by the South Korean branch of the General Motors concern, the mid-size Chevrolet Captiva crossover was presented at the Paris Motor Show in 2004. Serially produced from 2006 to 2016. At first, cars came to us from Korea, and since 2008, the assembly of twin Chevrolet Captiva and Opel Anthera has been established at the GM plant in St. Petersburg. In 2011, both crossovers significantly changed their appearance and completely updated the line of power units. The diesel, for 2.0, 150 horsepower, has grown to a volume of 2.2 liters and a power of 184 horsepower. The gasoline, for 2.4, 136 horsepower, of the Z24XE series was replaced by a more modern unit of the Ecotec family, a 24XE series, with a capacity of 167 horsepower, and instead of the previous V-shaped 3.2 of the Z32 SE series, 227 horsepower, a 3-liter V6 of the A30XH series from the Cadillac SRX crossover appeared, derated to a tax-friendly 249 horsepower. And if the new gasoline engines turned out to be no worse than their predecessors, then with the transmission everything was the opposite. The Korean-made 6-speed Hydra-Matic 6T40/45, a joint development of GM and Ford, which began to be installed in 2011, turned out to be capricious of the former well-deserved Japanese 5-speed Aisin AW55. For pre-styling versions older than 2011, the emblem on the grille is leaky, and its decorative layer is destroyed by dirt. The chrome coating of the elements of the external decor becomes cloudy. The leashes of the wipers peel off after 4 to 5 years. The bottom of the body is well protected by a mastic coating. No serious corrosion is observed even in specimens from the first batches. But surface rust on subframes and fasteners is a common occurrence, including on cars of recent years of production. Chips on the hood and windshield frame need to be quickly tinted. They bloom quickly. Weak spot, the tailgate. The most vulnerable places are those bordering on the corners of the number plate, which rubs off the paint in 5 to 7 years. Local damage is best repaired without waiting for the coating to swell and spread corrosion. Later, similar problems may occur near door handles and mirror bases. The tailgate sags over time and its lower edge is peeled off to metal from contact with the adjacent bumper lining. Corrosion is often found under the plastic lining of wheel arches and doors, primarily near their attachment points. Electrician. For pre-styling cars, the clock on the panel may go out or go off. New ones cost 5,000 rubles, but usually they can be repaired. The services of a master electronics engineer will cost much less. Do not rush to change the windshield wiper drive if the wipers stop in the middle of the wiper stroke. The failure of the limit switch is to blame. Noisy after 60 to 80,000 kilometers. The electric motor of the heater fan cannot be saved with grease. A new one will cost 6,500 rubles, but you can also find an analog for 4,000 rubles. Closer to 100,000 kilometers, damper actuators in the climate system may begin to wedge, up to the failure of a burned-out motor. After 6 or 7 years, the electrical system can fail with problems with contacts, and the loss of mass under the hood, in the generator terminals and oxidation in the engine ECU connectors are especially unpleasant. A common cause of an airbag alarm is as little as a correctable loose connection in the wiring under the seats or behind the door sills. Problems with activation of the rear axle coupling also lie in the wiring laid along the bottom of the vehicle. But errors in the operation of the ABS occur due to the fault of not only the engine compartment wiring, but also the control unit itself. The contacts on the board are destroyed. You should not rush to buy a new module for 60,000 rubles. The board is restored by soldering. Engines. The 2.4 Series Z24 cast iron block engine, originally from the 80s, was produced in Australia at the Holden plant. It is weak, but simple and durable. It was installed on pre-styling Captiva older than 2011. Every 60,000 kilometers, along with the timing belt, it makes sense to update the water pump driven by it, so as not to risk breaking or cutting the teeth of the belt and damaging the valves and pistons if it is jammed. It happens that due to not very successful shape and thermal compensation, a cast exhaust manifold cracks. The crankcase ventilation system quickly becomes overgrown with deposits and sins with the failure of the membrane valve built into the engine cover, and the plastic valve cover itself deforms over time. Replacing the gaskets does not eliminate the leak. The issue will be solved by a new cover for 6,500 rubles. After a run of more than 100,000 kilometers, Monitor the temperature regime. The thermostat may jam. A new original will cost 3,500 rubles, an analog 1.5 times cheaper. The 2.4 engine of the A24 series, went into series after restyling, is distinguished by a sleeved light alloy block, a phase adjustment mechanism, timing chains and balancer shafts, as well as a water pump drive from a camshaft. Reliability, despite the complexity of the design, is not particularly affected. However, it is more expensive to maintain. For example, replacing all chains after 120 to 150,000 kilometers will cost no less than 20,000 rubles. Cracks in the exhaust manifold are quite common. Make sure that water does not get on the hot metal from the drain of the windshield wiper box. The V6 3.2 motor of the Z32 SE series on pre-styling versions older than 2011 has an unpredictable resource of an overcomplicated timing drive. Sometimes replacement is required after 70 to 80,000 kilometers and costs 70 to 80,000 rubles. The first signs of impending waste are running noises, followed by valve timing error and a drop in traction, and ultimately chain jumping. The engine overheats easily at the slightest malfunction in the cooling system, and the converters are extremely sensitive to fuel quality. The 3-liter V6 engine of the A30XH series, which appeared in 2011, is more complicated. It has a timing mechanism and direct injection, but no more burdensome to maintain. The timing chain drive, with proper oil maintenance, runs for a long time. But the sensitivity to fuel quality is no less, first of all, because of the injection pump and nozzles. The direct injection satellite is carbon deposits on the intake valves, which must be removed periodically. Among the 2.0 Z20D and 2.2 A22D turbo diesels, both developed by the Italian company VM Motori, the younger one is less troublesome, but it is found only on pre-styling Captiva. Diesel 2.2 has unreliable and at the same time expensive, 16,000 rubles each, nozzles that are able to wedge and pour in the open position up to a water hammer in the cylinder. Boost pressure can be lost due to a crack in the plastic intake manifold. And oil leaks through an unsuccessful seal with the sealant of a 2-piece sump will have to be eliminated with the removal of the front gearbox. Gearboxes. Mechanical boxes are found in 2 versions. This is a 6-speed GM F40 and a Korean 5-speed D33 on pre-styling versions with the 2.4 engine and diesels. There are no complaints about the GM box, but the synchronizers of the 5-speed D33 often wear out by 120,000 kilometers. The 5-speed automatic Aisin AW55 had been in production for the 6th year by the time it appeared on Captiva and managed to get rid of most childhood ailments. The Japanese unit is durable. Even a torque converter lockup can last 240 to 260,000 kilometers. The main thing is not to operate the box in dirty oil, otherwise the valve body and solenoids will quickly become unusable. The Korean-made 6-speed automatic Hydromatic 6T40/45 on restyled crossovers can last longer than 200,000 kilometers without comment, but only if it is a seriously modernized copy, and these are installed only on cars no older than 2014. In earlier versions, problems with the valve body, solenoids, torque converter, and even differentials and planetary gears are often found at runs of less than 100,000 kilometers. This machine is demanding on oil temperature, and therefore it is necessary to monitor the cleanliness of the main radiator, into which the box cooling is integrated. Transmission. Transmission front-wheel drive versions of the mechanical part is not too troublesome. On 4-wheel drive vehicles, the Borg-Warner rear axle electromagnetic clutch can fail due to water ingress, overheating, and dirty oil. Front and rear wheel bearings may not last more than 100,000 kilometers. The original ones also do not last long and cost 15 to 18,000 rubles. Assembly. Analogs are much cheaper, from 5,000 rubles. The rear gearbox is weak except for oil seals. But after 100 to 150,000 kilometers, the wear of the silent blocks of its fastening in the subframe beam reduces the life of the cardan shaft. The crosses and the outboard bearing, both of which change separately, often become unusable with a run of 120 to 160,000 kilometers. Steering. Even in restyled cars, the steering rack can leak and knock at a mileage of 100 to 120,000 kilometers. Before modernization in 2011, and even earlier. Fortunately, the original rail for 60 to 70,000 rubles has analogs half the price. After 100 to 120,000 kilometers, steering rods, tips, and crosses of the steering shaft can knock, the latter is supplied as an assembly for 20,000 rubles. The reason for the decrease in the efficiency of the hydraulic booster is a clogged filter mesh in the reservoir with the working fluid. Suspension. The weakest of all are the front stabilizer struts. They have to be changed after 40 to 60,000 kilometers. Quickly, over 50 to 70,000 kilometers, the lower bushings of the rear shock absorber mounts wear out. The pre-styling versions have weaker rear suspension silent blocks and front strut support bearings, which do not always reach 100,000 kilometers. Ball bearings are riveted to the front levers, although if they wear out after 100 to 120,000 kilometers, you can also buy non-original bearings separately. But it doesn't always make sense. The lever assembly still has to be bought for 8,500 rubles due to destruction at about the same runs of silent blocks. Front shock absorbers usually withstand at least 100,000 kilometers. The rear shock absorbers of the self-leveling Nivomac clearance system are 1.5 times longer. So long. Interior trim materials are not chic, but generally wear-resistant enough. The leatherette of the sidewalls of the upholstery is prone to cracking at the folds. At the steering wheel, after 100,000 kilometers, the painted plastic coating may be rubbed off in places, but the leather braid is usually well preserved. For power seats, the sleds are loose and can subsequently break. Sometimes they had to be changed already during the warranty period. Drips on the ceiling near the upholstery fasteners are just traces of condensation. Water can also accumulate in the ceiling lights. Laid along the passenger compartment fluid supply tube to the rear washer sometimes leaks along the joint. This spoils the floor carpet. To minimize the risk of leaks, use a good quality fluid and keep it free from freezing in the tubing. The strengths of the Chevrolet Captiva, while not particularly outstanding, still outweigh its weaknesses. You can ride with these. Pre-styling cars older than 2011 are best chosen with a 4-cylinder gasoline or diesel engine. And of the upgraded ones, Captiva with the 2.4 gasoline engine, released no earlier than 2014, will be preferable.